The circumstances of the creation of Uchiha Sasuke are rather well known by Naruto fans with more than a passing interest in the series. Reportedly, Kishimoto was told by an editor to include a rival in order to improve the story. A controversial choice, but I've only seen evidence that it worked. He was also told to not make the Hokage and teachers animals, which I will get back to later. Going back to Sasuke, it's undeniable that he takes inspiration from several sources. The Sharingan is named after the ability of Jiraiya the Gallant, a figure from a Japanese legend whose clan was massacred regarding suspicion of a coup. His name comes from a famous ninja, Sarutobi Sasuke, another legend that inspired his own share of works to the point where the ninja warrior obstacle course is just called Sasuke in Japan. There's also the manga Sasuke by Sanpei Shirato. I just know I'm butchering so many of these words. About a ninja named Sasuke whose clan is massacred and who goes looking for revenge. I can't really tell you much about that one because it doesn't seem to have been translated, and most attempts to research it circle back to Uchiha Sasuke. Another Sasuke he seems to have been inspired by is the one from manga Sarutobi Sasuke, who has some similar abilities and a female companion named Sakura. That last paragraph has reminded me that Naruto really is a story made for and inspired by a culture I'm very unfamiliar with beyond anime, because it seems all Japanese people needed to do is hear his name to know he's supposed to be an elite shinobi. To top it off, Kishimoto has been open about the fact that he's also inspired by Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho in design and personality somewhat. Strangely, a lot of people say Sasuke is inspired by Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter, though that's hard to believe when you consider the most notable character Sasuke is inspired by, Kiryu from Karakuri. What do you mean you've never heard of him? Karakuri was Masashi Kishimoto's first one-shot for Shonen Jump. After a virus spread across Japan in the year 19XX, the Ministry of Health and Welfare created an artificial cell in the central nervous system, as well as an artificial cervical vertebra that allowed for the treatment of any abnormalities. Once implanted in humans, they would be able to recover from the pandemic. However, because governments are going to government, some members of the ministry worked on weaponizing it. People implanted with these special weaponized vertebrae were called androids and were no longer considered humans. They gained physical augmentations, red eyes, and became perfect human weapons. These weapons were tested in public to see what they were capable of, and the results were hidden as accidents. In response, the defense agency created the Karakuri Squad, equipped with special Karakuri, which translates to mechanism, to combat these androids. Members of these squads were also assigned a surveillance pet by the police department. That's basically the backstory we're given, though the existence of the Karakuri is revealed in story before we meet the main characters, Kiryu and his surveillance rat, Officer Ken. While the two are off duty, they are invited to stay at the house of a fellow officer, Koten, and his younger sister, Kolon. Kiryu has an obvious crush on Kolon, and Ken has an even more obvious crush on getting lunch. However, they are both lost and arguing about it. Ken blames Kiryu and insults him. Kiryu tries to bite back that he's the one who feeds Ken. The rat responds by kicking him in the face and reminding him that he is his superior and is legally allowed to kill him. Kiryu, however, responds that he's only allowed to do so if Kiryu goes in crazy, and that he can't kill him while he's normal. Eventually, they reach Kolon and Koten's house to discover it partially destroyed. An old businessman had hired two androids to attack the house and kidnap Kolon, with the purpose of taking her blood, which he needs to survive, as she has the blood type A and has never been affected by the aforementioned virus that ravaged Japan. They beat Koten and took Kolon before Kiryu and Ken arrived. Using Ken's keen sense of smell and Kolon's underwear, they track her down right before the transfusion can take place, but not before the old guy can be weird and lick Kolon's face. The man sets his android employees on Kiryu. While he seems to be overwhelmed at first, he quickly turns the table using his Karakuri and proceeds to make them both into gory explosions. His explanation is that he injected them with liquid methane before rapidly increasing the temperature, causing a 630-fold increase in volume, and they exploded. He defeats the last one, saying that androids are all alike, playing with human lives. As they leave, the businessman tries to convince them to let him have Colon's blood because he can't survive without it. However, Kiro argues that you can't take and give a human's life to other people. Finally, they return Colon home and say goodbye, before promptly getting lost in the middle of the night, unable to find their way back home. Ken argues that after their cool farewell, they can't just go back and say that they're lost. So that was Karakuri, Kishimoto's first successful one-shot. In case you're wondering, attempts to serialize it led to its immediate cancellation due to poor reception. While Kiru's looks can be seen as a reflection of Sasuke's, I mean, you could look at the members of the Karakuri division shown and mistake them for members of the Uchiha clan, the personality differences are pretty obvious. Kiru's far more laid back and expressive and less, well, cool, for lack of a better word, than Sasuke. This makes sense though. Sasuke was created as a rival to Naruto, so he needed to be the opposite of the optimistic go-getter. A more serious demeanor, a colder outer expression, and the like. But what's really interesting is the plot points the Naruto manga and Karakuri have in common, even if we only have one chapter of the latter to reference. A group of people with red eyes considered dangerous by the government, the use of transplants to give people more powers, the government creating perfect human weapons through dehumanizing and underhanded methods, an old guy trying to extend his life through transplants with younger people. Disliking the last one because they play around with human lives is even something Sasuke and Kiru share, which makes one wonder what Kiru's backstory was. I also see that between Kishimoto's initial desire to make the Hokage and teachers in Naruto animals and the surveillance pets, he really wanted to draw anthropomorphic animals, which probably led to the introduction of summoning animals, like Pakun. It's enough to make you wonder exactly how much of Naruto's world building was attached to Sasuke when Kishimoto decided to add him in, especially when so many remain mainly relevant to his character, like transplanting abilities and the idea of government being prepared to kill their soldiers if they lose control of them. If I may theorize, I think Kiro and the rest of the Karakuri squad were also androids, albeit suppressed ones. They are being used for their powers to defeat the others, but their surveillance pets are meant to kill them if they begin to go out of control and can no longer remain assets, which would only sound like more of a Danzo thing to do if their Karakuris were then harvested from their bodies for future use. Now, we have no idea where the story would have gone from there, and trying to extrapolate would be little more than guesswork. Go read the first chapter of any manga you know about and try to describe how you think it will end to someone who's read the whole thing. They'll probably laugh at you. However, the only person here who can laugh at me would be Kishimoto, and he's never going to watch this video. Going by the plot points in the story, it wouldn't surprise me if, like Naruto, the story had a moral about suppressing people's humanity in an attempt to create the perfect human weapons. It's also likely Kiro would have learned to see androids as more than just monsters who play with human lives, maybe by fully becoming one himself, maybe when one of his friends becomes one. They'd probably have also been focused on how androids' disregard for human life isn't just a result of them being androids, but how the government treats them. In the same way, generalizing the Uchiha like they were a ticking time bomb led to discord between them and the village, which eventually led to their massacre. A self-fulfilling prophecy. You can see why I don't really subscribe to the idea that Sasuke is inspired by Kurapika. Kishimoto was writing about people with red eyes and superpowers years before Hunter x Hunter's publication, and the clan massacre because of government suspicion of a planned coup with the sole survivor having the power of Sharingan is clearly inspired by the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant rather than the Kurta massacre. Western anime fans kind of have a problem of assuming one anime concept is directly inspired by another anime instead of, say, Japanese mythos. It would be like someone thinking Marvel's Thor is a ripoff of DC's Captain Marvel because it involves an unassuming character transforming into a muscle-bound lightning god. Look up Donald Blake. Though it's a little funny to think that if Karakuri had gotten serialized, people might be accusing Kurapika of being a ripoff of Kiro. Though Kurapika himself is inspired by giant insectoid monsters whose 14 eyes turn red when they are forced to kill, called Omu, from a manga whose name I'm totally going to butcher, called Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. They'd also probably say Zoro from One Piece is based on him as well, considering his lack of direction. Anime fans can be like that. And because I know someone's going to bring it up, the Chidori was introduced in Naruto over a year before Killua first used lightning. Sasuke learned it a year before Killua had his first actual lightning attack, Lightning Palm, And by the time Killua was really developing his abilities beyond the basics, Sasuke was kicking Team 7's collective asses in Shippuden using things like the Chidori Nagashi. Hunter x Hunter is old, but Naruto's old too. But this rejection of the idea that Kishimoto copied Hunter x Hunter isn't an attempt to make him look like a paragon of creativity. There are like 3 paragraphs in this video essay about all the inspirations that were combined to create Uchiha Sasuke. I'm not even clear on what may or may not have inspired the creation of Kiro himself. But there's no way to deny that Kishimoto's combination of these aspects was extremely successful. He was able to combine the revenge story with the story of government exploitation, using the idea of a massacre due to suspected coup as connecting tissue, all while making Sasuke a suitable ideological rival to the actual main character of the story, Naruto, all leading to an extremely unique character and one of the best characters in the story. There really is no such thing as a purely original idea in this world, just a remix of things that have already been seen and experienced, looking at them from new angles to create something brand new from the building blocks. And really, there are a few more perfect examples of doing this than Uchiha Sasuke. And if you want to hear me talk more about Sasuke, I'm planning on making a video about his character arc in part 1 Naruto for my 1000 subscriber special. So subscribe if you want to see it. And don't forget to hit the like button and comment on this video so I may see your thoughts. Thank you and good day.